This is J. Krishnamurti's second public discussion at Brockwood Park, 1970.
What shall we talk over together? And I'm sorry it's such a rough morning.
Sir, you talked about the relationship between pleasure and pain. We regard them, I think, as opposites. You say they're the same.
I didn't say they are the same.
Anyway,
Do you want to discuss the relationship between pleasure and fear?
Excuse me, may I suggest something else? I've been told that you are going to speak next to a group of writers and thinkers.
Beg pardon?
I'm told that you are going to speak next in Perugia to a group of writers and thinkers who are very much concerned about terricidio, which means the killing of this earth. I wonder if we can broach that subject.
I'm going to speak in Perugia in Italy to a lot of professors and scientists and philosophers, all the long-haired ones. And
I wonder if these people, as many others, are concerned about the gradual killing of the earth.
I see the gradual pollution and the destruction of the earth and so on. Do you want to discuss that? Or shall we talk over together what is sanity, shall we? I'm not saying what you ask is insane or anything of that kind, but might be rather worthwhile to talk over together what is sanity. Shall we? I wonder what is sanity? To be sane, healthy, to think clearly, what do you mean by that word? What does that word mean to you? Please go on, sir. I can go into this. I don't know if you... Would not any exaggeration of any fragmentation of the mind be insanity? The exaggeration, giving importance to, or putting all your thought and energy in one fragment which one fragment among many other fragments which make up the human mind. Wouldn't you call that insanity, not balance? And if you think that, are we sane in relation to that particular thing of which we just now talked about, which is giving emphasis, putting all our energy in one direction, like sex, like earning money, like enjoyment, pleasure, or the pursuit of a fragment which is called God. Would you call any of that imbalance? What do you say, sirs?
I think if one fragment is so much attention and energy is put into it to the exclusion of the other fragment, and other parts of self,
Therefore,
then you become the other parts will be unbalanced.
so you would consider, if you give emphasis to one and not consider the rest, it is obviously not a harmonious living, therefore not sane. Now, do we do this in our daily life? When one worships sex as the supreme thing in life, or taking drugs and thinking that's going to bring enlightenment, final illumination, or concentrate on earning a livelihood and the money, the prestige, the position, all those indicate a mind that is not harmonious, doesn't it? Or a mind that's concerned entirely with knowledge. Or technique. I don't know. What do you say? Are we, in that sense, balanced human beings? Obviously not. Should we be behind the bars? And an unbalanced humanity as it is must produce all kinds of catastrophes. Wars, pollution, destruction of the earth, bringing about constant misery. Now, if that is so, what then shall one do? I realize I am giving all my energies, thought, and therefore action, to what? What would you suggest? To thought. Right. That I worship thought as the supreme instrument of all culture, of all enlightenment, of all intelligence, of all action. Am I, or is one, aware that one gives thought an extraordinary, important position, state in life? And if one does realize that, what shall one do? The complete. This is supposed to be a discussion, not a talk by me, by the speaker. So, what shall I do when I realize that my whole life is based on thought? Do I realize thought is only a fragment, a part of a whole? A segment of, among many other parts. Do I realize that? Or do I think thought is the whole thing? What do you say, sir, please?
I think one should differentiate between thought as a principle and thought being mindful for the individual.
Says thought as a principle and individual thought. Is there a difference between thought as a principle and individual thought? I'm asking, I'm not saying there is not, I'm just asking if there is a difference between individual thinking and collective thinking. Thinking which man has gathered through millennia, through centuries upon centuries, as knowledge. Scientific, technological, knowledge of nature and so on and on. Is there a difference between a particular thinking or the peculiarity of a thinking of an individual and the collective accumulation of thought of mankind? What do you say, sirs? Oh, my.
I don't think so, in as much as the individual is influenced by the collective.
So you say thought is conditioned by the culture, the society, the environment in which he lives. Therefore, there is no division between the individual thinking and the collective thinking.
The collective thinking seems to be totally removed from any of your own personal experience.
That's what we are saying, sir.
And it seems that to be in touch with your individual thought, your own thought, seems to be necessary if you're going to have any self-awareness. Even not that it's
Therefore, you are separating individual thought from the collective thought. You think that there is a particular individual thinking. Oh, I'm just asking. You say that there is an individual thinking apart from the collective. Is that so?
I think that's why guilt feelings.
Wait, sir, we'll come to that. Don't take a particular example. Is your thinking as an individual different from the collective thinking or my thinking? Your thinking, is it different from my thinking as an individual or the collective thinking? Or is all thinking more or less the same?
Thought process
Vivan?
thought process, the source of all thought is the same throughout. The particular thought is different.
The source of thought is all the same, the questioner says. Though there may be modifications or slight changes in the thought in an individual. Yes, sir?
If the individual creates a society, the individual's thoughts must be the same as the society.
What?
If the individual creates the society, the individual's thought must be exactly the same.
Obviously, sir. I don't quite see the difference, basic difference, between the collective thought and the individual thought. Because the individual is part of the collective.
But he's at the same time greater, it seems to me. Maybe we misunderstand each other's words. But it seems to me that the reason for all these wars and everything seems to be, and for all the bad feelings that people have about themselves seems to be that they're thinking for themselves, and that they find that what they think is radically different from what the collectivity thinks.
Look, sir, is your thinking different from mine, coming from India or from Russia? Is your thinking different?
The things I think about?
Not to think, not what you think about, your thinking process.
Oh, no.
Huh?
I know that's...
Wait, so the thinking process of human beings are more or less the same, conditioned according to their background,
different.
as Catholic, Protestant, Hindu, and so on, right? And there may be modifications of that thought. I might, as a German, think differently from you who are American, because I have been conditioned by the German culture in which I live. But the process of thinking is the same, isn't it? Though I call myself a German and you an American, the process, the mechanism is memory, knowledge, experience. Otherwise, if you had no knowledge, no experience, no knowledge, you couldn't speak. Right? So, thought is the response of memory. That memory may be conditioned, may be a little more free, a little less dogmatic, a little less assertive, a little less aggressive, but it is still the response of memory. And is your memory so very different from mine as the German, as a human being? Please, sir, this is quite important. Go slowly in this. We'll go into that, madam. I'm not at all sure. I'm saying what you say is not true, but I'm not at all sure that our thinking is not more or less the same. You conditioned by the culture in which you live, and another conditioned by his particular culture. Whether that culture is superficial or deep, whether it is conscious or unconscious, it is still part of the mechanism or the process of thinking, isn't it? We are learning, please. Wait a minute, sir, we are learning, aren't we? I am not being assertive, dogmatic. We are trying to learn about this whole process of thinking, right? Whether it belongs to you as an individual, whose thinking is completely different from another. You follow? We are going to learn about it. Therefore, please don't be assertive, dogmatic. Let's inquire into it. Right, sir? There is somebody else up before you.
We have been discussing the question of the environment conditioning the thoughts of people and groups of people. But some people follow different lines and gain inspiration along those lines. There are great musicians. Music, for example, of the great composers is not a conditioning of environment because it is new. Therefore it comes from somewhere.
Sir, look, don't yet take examples of the musicians or the artist or the scientist or religious person, but we are asking ourselves whether the process of thinking is so very different from yours and mine. Thinking, the machinery of thinking, sir, not what you think about, not how you express that thinking in music, in painting, in this or that.
May we say then perhaps that if the process is the same, there is differences in emphasis in different capacities.
So, but thinking is the same mechanism.
Yes, indeed.
That's all we want to establish first.
There'd be the thinking thought energy that with the original thought energy appears to be different. Different individuals, different cultures have different conditioning. There's cultural conditioning. A large number of people will have the same about feelings or ways of thinking about many things, and then an individual will be even different from his culture, from his society, and even different from his own family. They're all different levels of conditioning.
You are going, sir, please do look, sir. We are talking about the machinery of thinking, not how you or I express that thought.
No, what I'm saying is that the thought energy originally is all the same.
Stay there for a minute, stay there. The energy of all thinking is the same. That's what you say. Which may express itself according to the capacity, to the gift, to a particular tendency, and so on. That might vary, but the machinery of thinking is the same. Right? Quite right, sir.
Some people have a few more certainty, some a few less. But the programming is our experience and what we are.
That's right. You're saying, like the computer, we've got a computer like minds. And some are well informed, more alive, less, but it is a computer mind that is functioning all the time.
Yes, all our brains are all made of the same kind of cells.
Yeah, so stick to that little bit. Therefore, what does that mean? Is there then, the next question, freedom in thinking? Freedom. Is there playing the same old record all the time with varying themes and depending on the circumstances? Therefore, can thought, however capable, however efficient, however knowledgeable, can that bring freedom to man? Freedom in the sense from fear, from anxiety, from guilt, from sorrow. You understand my question? Is sorrow different from my sorrow? Is your sense of guilt different from another? Is your sense of despair different from another? Or your loneliness, your misery, your confusion? Please.
Are you saying, sir, that my guilt is the same as someone else's guilt?
No, I'm not saying your guilt is the same. No. Look, sir, the first part of the question was, can thought, which is the repetition of the computer knowledge, can that thought free the mind from all the reactions of fear and so on? Huh? It never has till now?
Never will.
Never will. How do you know? Why do you say that, sir? No, please, sir. Well, I'm not saying you're right or wrong. I want to learn. Why do you say thought can never free jealousy or anxiety?
I disagree. I want to play devil's advocate.
Beg pardon?
I want to play devil's advocate. I disagree. I've found that if you understand a person's motive for doing something, you can be much more tolerant, understanding, less jealous by using your understanding.
When you use the word understanding, what does that word mean?
It has to start with thought.
Beg pardon?
It has to begin with thought. I have to pay attention to the fact that I am jealous. I have to think about the situation that produces jealousy. Think into the person's mind why they're acting the way they are. Try to, and by my thinking, change my living, my feeling, my attitude to that person. I gradually come to share their problems.
Through thought, I'll have to repeat it.
I must use my mind.
Wait a minute, madam, I have to repeat your statement, otherwise they can't hear it. If I'm misstated, please correct it. The questioner says, I must use my mind. I see I'm aware, or another is aware. I'm aware of another's jealousy or my own jealousy. By understanding it, which is exploring, inquiring, I become tolerant and therefore understand more of jealousy, not only in myself or understand the jealousy of another. Of the cause, the reactions, all the implications of jealousy. That is, you are saying, through thought, the exercise of thought, there is an understanding of jealousy, and therefore freedom from it. Right? Is that so? I'm not saying it is not.
It seems that what it is sort of like less intense form of jealousy.
So just let's inquire into this particular thing. We say by exercising thought, we learn more about jealousy and therefore are free from it. To put it quickly.
No, I would disagree. Because exercising thought is just repeating the same.
No, sir. Don't you see? What caused jealousy? Thought.
No, I disagree again. Very profoundly I disagree. Jealousy is an emotion.
Which is part of thought.
It arises from a sense of loss.
No, madam. Which is part of thought.
It's a childish, infantile thing. It's loss. And if you understand what you've got, and if it even matters that you've got it, you will chill to the point that you understand it doesn't matter.
I understand that, madam. Just go slowly. I understand. Don't say I profoundly disagree with you. We're trying to learn about things. Thought, if you had feeling without thought, would there be jealousy? Just feeling. Huh? Would you call it jealousy?
Animals are
Wait,
jealous.
wait,
Animals are jealous.
People are usually jealous when they're unconscious. Not when they're conscious.
No, you are now moving away from. conscious, now we'll have to go into that. Conscious and unconscious jealousy. I become conscious of a feeling which I call jealousy. A feeling. The feeling of jealousy, the word of jealousy, is remembered from the past jealousies. Right? Which is the response of memory to a particular feeling which has been recognized as jealousy. Right? Whether that response is the outcome of conscious memory or unconscious memories, we'll leave that for the moment. So, the response, the feeling is recognized as jealousy through a word which thought has given meaning to. I'm saying that I have a feeling. Then I recognize it as jealousy. How do I recognize it as jealousy? Because I've had it before. I associate the present feeling with a past feeling which I've called jealousy. So it is still within the field of thought. But I'm saying that wait, madam, listen. Otherwise I couldn't recognize it as jealousy. I'm angry. And I say, but Joe, I'm angry. Why? Because I've had that feeling before. And recognition implies a previous knowledge, which is thought. Otherwise I wouldn't know that was anger. Go. But isn't there an operation of thought there also going on? In a dog. Therefore, let us leave babies and dogs alone. Let's talk about ourselves. No. I quite agree, but I want to find out if being infantile, whether that childishness is the result of thought. Biban?
I think it's the result of lack of thought.
You say it's the result of lack of thought. Wait, madam, go slow. Lack of thought. Therefore, what is maturity?
The ability to face truth.
Wait. Ability to face truth consciously, which means able to face facts, able to face what is, and not go around it, not escape from it, not cover it up, not condemn it, not judge it, not give various evaluations about it. To face what is. Right? What prevents it? What is fear? Go slow. You see, without recognition, a new feeling, has it any significance? I am full of antagonism today. I feel this. Before, without giving a name to it, which is the response of memory, which is the response of recognition, this feeling has no meaning at all. I just feel something. It is only when I recognize it by using a word as aggression that it has significance. And the recognition is a process of thinking. Right? So without thinking, feeling has very little meaning. But one more, go slowly.
Please, can I say something? You started by talking about sanity. I work in a mental hospital. And it occurs to me that psychotics do not seem to have the same thinking process. It's very hard to communicate with them.
Why?
Do not have your sense of recognition. They suffer terribly.
Yes, madam. Go. I understand all this. I know what it means. I'm not psychotic, but I can see. But please stick to one thing at a time, and we'll explore all this together. I am saying to myself, asking myself, has feeling any significance apart from thought? Yes. Do first, before you say yes, let's find out. I feel, wait a minute, sir, I feel a great sense of tenderness, sense of love. Right? Can thought be related to it? Huh? Go slow, go slow, go slow. Then it becomes pleasure, doesn't it? Then it must be translated in terms of recognition. Oh my Lord, this is love a product of thought? Huh? We're going to answer it.
In human terms, people only seem to be able to achieve love, which goes beyond emotions, by using their mind to understand themselves.
Now, is that so? By understanding themselves, they go beyond the travail of love? Huh? That is, love is not pleasure. Huh? Love is not desire. Huh? Oh, so love is pleasure, desire, pain, sorrow, jealousy, hatred. Then where do you draw the line?
I think love goes beyond emotion, and we get confused with our emotions and call them under the name of love and anti-love. But we have to use our minds to feel that
I am not saying we are using our mind now as we are discussing. What is the thing we are trying to discuss? We are trying to find out
You were saying, can thought solve the problem of fear and faith?
Yes. Can thought solve the problem of fear? And is not fear the creation of thought. Huh? No? Wait on.
I was a child in the dark night, this is my thoughts, it's feelings in the dark.
Thought, unless thought sustains the feeling evaporates very quickly, but thought gives it an object, gives it a drive in time, it sustains it.
Now, sir, let's begin. Do you know what fear is, don't you? We all do. Going in the dark, afraid of somebody, and so on, so on. Death, everything. Right? We know all this fear. How does it come? How does it come about? I go out in the dark and suddenly I'm afraid.
Physiological reaction.
Which is a physical reaction. Suddenly, finding myself in a dark, in a strange place, and the feeling of uncertainty, insecurity. The feeling of insecurity.
That's the conditioning.
Go look at it slowly, sir. Please go into it slowly. I am not dogmatic, so please don't. We are trying to learn about it. There is a certain feeling of insecurity. What is that feeling of insecurity? What has brought about that feeling of insecurity? Isn't it? Something might happen to one, sudden danger, feeling of insecure, feeling that, being lost, where you might get attacked and all the rest of it. All that is the result of thinking, isn't it? It may be instant thinking. If there was no thought, I wouldn't be afraid of the dark. I would walk through it. It's only thought, the swiftness, the rapidity of thinking has brought this feeling of uncertainty. Otherwise I wouldn't be afraid of the dark.
It's a first time.
Beg pardon?
It's always a first time. When you-
Wait, I'm talking the first, second, third, 10th time.
I'm sorry, I'm stuck. Because like as David was saying, the first time I was afraid, I was a little afraid. He didn't know what it was. I just think
Therefore, what happened second time?
I wasn't thinking I was afraid.
But I said, no, but I said it was a thought that was so rapid, of which you are unaware. Next time it happens, you're already saying, "Well, I've had this fear. I won't be so much. I won't be afraid so much." Third time, 10th time, you've got used to it.
So I guess my mind to get over it.
I'm not talking how to get over it. The question of getting over it is quite a different matter. We are pointing out that thought has bred fear. Whether that thought is so rapid, of which one is not aware, or thought, not so rapidly, thinks of what is going to happen tomorrow. I might die. I have done something in the past. All that is a process of thinking, whether it is instantaneous or gradual. It must be. Therefore, fear is the product of thought. How to get over it is another matter. Like pleasure is the product of thought. No? I had a most extraordinary, enjoyable evening yesterday in the woods, walking, looking at the sunlight. And it was marvelous. And that was a delight, which I'd like to have it repeated tomorrow. And this demand for repetition is the machinery of thought, the process of thinking. It's so simple, it is obvious. The recognition of that experience, we have said that. I looked at that sunset. It was splendid, finished. But thought comes in and says, I wish I could. It was so enjoyable, it was a marvelous feeling. I like to have it again. Please just stick to that simple example. You'll see how this operates. Fear, I realize, is the product of thought, right? And pleasure is the product of the continuity of thought. After all sexual pleasure is thinking about it, chewing over it, going into it, and say how, and on and on and on. And fear is saying, my God, what's going to happen tomorrow? I might die. No?
If I do not recognize my feeling as jealousy, does not remain sorrow, the feeling of sorrow.
If I do not recognize my feeling, what is the next?
Jealousy or fear or so on does not remain sorrow is the deep of my
If I do not recognize the fear or pleasure or guilt and so on, it does not. It has no profound effect.
Sorrow remains.
What, big pardon?
Just sorrow remains.
Just sorrow remains. Is that it? That's it. So, please, what do you mean by... You see, when we use this word sorrow, what do you mean by that word? What is the content of that word? There's tremendous quantity of self-pity in sorrow. No?
Is that the question? When you have a feeling like jealousy that you don't recognize, is that feeling not still painful?
Is not?
Is that feeling still not painful?
Is that feeling not painful? Sir, have you ever tried this? You have a feeling. Can you remain with that? Can the mind remain with that feeling without naming it? Without recognition? Then what is it? Is it pain? Is it sorrow? Look, moment you say it is pain, there is a process of thinking involved in it.
Is not sorrow the basis of our life?
Is not sorrow the basis of our life? Is it? That's why, sir, one must go in, when you use the word sorrow, one must go into it. Sorrow, what does that mean? sadness, grief, the feeling of insoluble problems of life, feeling the death of someone, feeling loneliness, feeling deeply frustrated, not being able to do anything in this world, and so on and on and on, right? All that is implied in the word sorrow, isn't it? No? Right, madam? Huh? Now, who is feeling all these? Feeling the loneliness, the despair, the utter misery, confusion, aggression, violence. Who is it that is feeling all these things? Who is feeling it? To put your answer that one question, who feels all this? Huh? Which is that? What is that? You see, you give it a deep psychic self. Alright. You think there are two superficial us, different. The one is superficial, the more profound. Now, what is the... How does this division arise? You must answer all these questions. What is this deep self? And what is the superficial self? Which is what? Which is what? Please, madam, go into it. Conscious and unconscious. Why do you divide it? Therefore, you said there is no division, really. Wait. So let's stick to the reality, not the superficiality of the division. So there is only a state of mind in which there is division. As the thinker and the thought. Right? As the experiencer and the experienced. As the observer and the observed. Right? The observed, we say, is the superficial. The observer is profound. Right? No, don't say maybe. Examine it, find out. We want to learn. And you see, awareness. Who is it that is aware? Now don't throw up your hands. We must learn about it, we must find out. So we realize there is a division in life, in me, in you. The you and me are many fragments. In oneself, oneself is made up of many fragments. One of the fragments is the observer. And the rest of the fragments are the observed. The observer becomes conscious of the fragments. But the observer is also one of the fragments. He is not different from the rest of the fragments. Right? And don't say, therefore you have to find out what is the observer, the experiencer, the thinker. What is he made up of? How does it come about, this division between the observer and the observed? The observer, we say, is one of the fragments. And why has he separated himself? Assumed as the analyzer, the one who is aware, the one who can control, change, suppress, all the rest of it. The observer is the censor, right? The censor is the result of the social conditionings, right? Social, environmental, religious, cultural conditioning, which is the division between culture has said, you are different from the thing you are observed. You are God, and that is matter. You are the higher self, and that's the lower self. You are the enlightened, and that's the unenlightened. Now, what has given him this authority to call himself enlightened? Because he has become the censor, right? And the censor says this is right, this is wrong, this is good, this is bad, this I must do, this I must not do, which is the result of his conditioning. The conditioning of the society, of the culture, of the religion, of the family, of all the race, and so on. So, the observer is the censor conditioned according to his environment. And he has assumed the authority of the analyzer. Right? And the rest of the fragments are also assuming their authority. Each fragment has its own authority. And so there is battle. Right? And so there is conflict between the observer and the observed. So, to be free of this conflict, one has to find out if you can look without the eyes of the censor. That is to be aware. Aware, to be aware that the eyes of the censor are the result of his conditioning. And can those eyes look with freedom, look innocently, freely. Otherwise this conflict it will exist. And therefore neuroticism and all the rest of it follow from this conflict. So you have to solve this question. Learn about this, whether the mind can look without any conditioning, which means without the censor, without the observer. Because the observer is the source of all conformity. And when you are conforming, there must be contradiction. And therefore conflict. Which are all the result of thinking. So the thinker is not separate from thought. So the observer is not separate from the observed. And when this is an actual reality, fact, truth, what is, then conflict comes to an end. I won't go into all that.
Sir, the sunset you talked about, if you observe it and it was so delightful, and then that moment when you are not doing anything, you still observe it, then
It comes back to you.
yeah,
Which means what? Which means what? Do listen to this. It's quite extraordinary if you go into it. You saw that sunset yesterday. It was a great delight. It has left a memory. It has left a memory, obviously. Otherwise you couldn't see that sunset. It has left a memory, left a mark. And that the response through thought is, I wish I could have more of it.
No, you don't say that, but you just see it.
The seeing of it is the same, sir. So thought breeds fear and pleasure, sustains it, gives it a continuity. This is clear, isn't it? And if I can't have my pleasure, I get upset, I get neurotic. And I want to avoid, the observer wants to avoid fear. Right? Wants pleasure and avoid fear. And that the observer is the result of all thinking, obviously. So, look what the game he's playing up on himself. With one hand he holds, with the other hand he rejects. But he's still the same observer. And if I can't have my pleasure, I get angry. I suffer. I go into tantrums. And if I cannot resolve my fear, I escape through amusement, through religion, through dogmas, through nationalities, through all kinds of ugly escapes. And that's what we human beings are. No, wait. First see what takes place, sir. Then the next inevitable question comes next. See, that is the fact. Whether it is conscious or unconscious, this is the whole momentum of our conditioning. Right, madam? Now the next question is, can the mind be free of all this conditioning? And this conditioning is the observer, and not what he observes. Right? I am conditioned, this mind is conditioned by a culture which has existed for 3,000 years in India, and when it meets a different culture, the Catholic, he says, my God, you are, follow? The observer rejects, and therefore conflict. So the inevitable question, next question is, can the mind, the brain cells themselves, be free of all conditioning? As the observer, as an entity that's conforming, as an entity that is conditioned by the environment, culture, family, race, you follow? Conditioned. If the mind is not free from conditioning, it can never be free of conflict, and therefore neuroticism. Therefore, we are, unless we are completely free, we are unbalanced people. And out of our unbalance, we do all kinds of mischief. So maturity is not a fail, but a freedom. Freedom from conditioning. And that freedom is not obviously the result of the observer, which is the very source of all memory, of all thought. So can I look with eyes that have never been touched by the past? And that is sanity. Sorry. Can you look at the cloud, the tree, your wife, your husband, your friend, without an image? To be aware that you have an image is the first thing, isn't it? To be aware that you are looking at life through a formula, through an image, through concepts, which are all distorting factors. So to be aware of it, and to be aware of it without any choice. And as long as the observer is aware of these, then there is distortion. Therefore, can you look, can the mind observe without the censor? Can you listen without any interpretation, without any comparison, judgment, evaluation? Listen to that breeze, to that wind, without any interference of the past. Sorry, I've taken the show away.
I see the tree, and I am delighted, and thoughts slipping in and say, that is an oak tree. Can this word hinder me to see without the observer?
Yes, sir. That's right. You do it. Look at the tree. I don't know if, haven't you ever done all these things? Look at the tree, a tree, without naming it, without the interference of knowledge about tree. Just to look. What takes place when you do look? So look. What? You become the tree. Have you looked at the tree that way, and then can you say you are the tree? And for God's, don't say you have never looked. No, madam, you can never say you are the tree. That is an identification with the tree. You're not the tree, are you? I hope not. Wait, look, madam. If profound relationship implies a relationship in which there is no image, obviously, if you have an image about me and I have an image about you, our relationship is between two images, which is built up by thought. Right? And this we call profound relationship. Therefore, there must be freedom from the machinery of the image. Therefore, can I look at a tree without the image? Of the tree, which means can I look without the observer, without the sensor? Then what takes place? You are not the tree. That's a trick of the mind, say, I identify myself with the tree, with you, with God, with this, with that. When there is no movement of identification on the part of the observer, then what takes place? Who creates the space between the tree and you? There is actual space, you understand, there is distance. It may be a foot, it may be 10 feet. The physical distance, we're not talking about the physical distance, but the psychological distance between you and the tree. Who has brought this about? The thinking, the observer, the sensor. No? Now, when that observer, that sensor, doesn't exist, but only look, when you look, what takes place? Beg pardon? There's too much noise here. Would somebody else who has heard it repeat it, please? The mind becomes very still. Does it? When you observe that tree without the observer, we're asking what happens. Huh? Are you saying the tree disappears?
No, I'm saying the psychological distance between yourself and the tree.
That is what? The psychological distance between you and the tree has disappeared. Right? Are you guessing this, or are you actually, have you done this thing? One of the factors of neurosis is obviously resistance. Building a wall around oneself. One has built a wall as the observer. And when you look at a tree, that wall separates you from the tree. Psychologically, not in actual space. Now, when there is no psychological space, what happens?
You take the tree into your being.
No. Your being is the observer. Do listen, sir. I said, when you look at a tree, at a human being, without the observer, without that sensor, without that thinker who says, that is the tree, that is what I like or don't like. I wish I had it in my garden. When you look at it without all that, what happens? Huh? Huh? There is communion between you and the tree.
It doesn't seem like a question that anybody really has the answer to.
You see, you're all guessing. You're all. Is it acceptance of the tree? It is there. Why should I have to accept it?
Yeah, but you might not like it to build your existing wall.
No, madam. Look, I'm asking you. We've been through all that. I'm asking what takes place when the observer is not.
There's only the objective. In my eyes,
It's energy, sir.
Huh?
It's energy.
What happens when you do that?
And I do it? Why do you want to know? Are you interested? Theoretically? Then you have to do it yourself, haven't you? Therefore, what happens to me is totally irrelevant. No?
Then that means that we are all different. Not different.
What, you are asked a question. So what happens to you when you look without the observer? I said, what value has it to you? Are you asking it to, as an example, to copy it, to verify your own particular experience, and so on? So what is important in this? Not what happens to the speaker when he looks at the tree, but what actually takes place when you look.
With respect, there were several answers here, which I suspect came from their personal experience, but you didn't accept it.
No. I'm not sure they're not repeating. Look, madam, what happens when one looks at another, husband, wife, or children, or the politician, without the image, what takes place? Huh? I give it up.
Sir, when you say what takes place,
What happens, sir? Look, what happens to you when you have no image? When you look at somebody without an image? If you say, I really don't know, right? That would, right? Then we can proceed. But if you say it is this, it is that, it is this, I'm not sure it is real. When you say, really, I've never done it, and that means tremendous discipline. Not suppression, not all the rest of the nonsense with regard to discipline. This needs tremendous attention. Not on the part of the observer. If the observer becomes attentive, he is still separate. So what takes place, if you really have gone through this, with real, not according to me, I'm not the oracle. If you will see it for yourself, when the psychological space disappears, there is a direct relationship. There, when you are married and you have a wife or between two people, there are images, right? Each is building an image. And each is looking through that image at each other. Now, if you have no image, what happens? Isn't that what is love? Which has nothing whatever to do with pleasure.
Can be because sometimes when people are newly married, they may have married each other's images, but through their
They generally do, sir. They marry each other's images.
yeah, and then, but maybe through their marriage they'll be able to they'll look through these images.
I mean, so you're guessing. This is all guesswork, please.
I don't think I'm guessing.
Don't look, sir. Either we talk very seriously to find out, to learn, not from me, to learn the nature of observing, the nature of looking, the nature of listening, so that when you do look, you look with eyes completely differently. Otherwise, we play around with insanity. And we started by asking, what is sanity? There it is. A mind that is conditioned is not sane.
When there is no psychological state between the dream and the observer, will the experience not be the same for everybody?
Will the experience
That is what
without the observer, will that experience be all the same or vary according to the individual?
I feel it should be the same.
Not feel. You see, you've asked a question, sir. Look at it. First, look at the question. When you look without the observer, you're asking whether that observation, that what takes place, will it vary according to the individual? If there is no observer at all, is there individuality?
I see.
Individuality as we know it is fragmentation. Individual means indivisible. But we are divided human beings, broken up, fragmented. Therefore, we are not individuals. What time is it, sir? Sorry. This is the end of the discussion. There will be talks of this, etc.